Welcome to the 2024 Winter and Spring ENP Study Group through OnScene First. This is week 6. We are going to cover MLTS, multi-line telephone systems. So for those of you that are stumbling upon this YouTube video and are looking to take the exam, and maybe you have not signed up for the live study group session, which we are in a live study group session currently, and it will end on January 19th will be our last day. So you can register for that particular study group all the way up to January, probably 18th, 2024, to get access to all of the study materials. That includes a link to all the videos, the PDFs, the MP3s. Some folks like to listen while they're driving in and out of work to kind of kill time there. And if you did register, but you did not get access to the calendar invite for the live sessions or access to the Google group, please email info@onscenefirst.com and my lovely assistant will get you access. Sometimes our email gets blocked by governmental agencies. So if you want to register, you can just scan that QR code there. If you're watching these videos after January 19th, and you are going to take the February exam and you don't have your test date and the live session is not going on, or you will be testing in the spring for the April exam and you'd like access to all of the training materials, just head right over to that same website, onscenefirst.com/training/study ENP, and you can register to gain access to the materials from this particular study group. The next live study group will start on March 8th and will be for the summer ENP exam. And then it will be a little bit before we have another live one. I'm going to be scaling down to do one live session each year. It just is a lot, and but the materials will be totally valid for every testing period. They just won't be live more than once a year. So there's that. We have partnered with the NINA Ontario folks up in Canada, and if you want more information on their information and how they have access, some benefits that they may have, just head on over to their website that's listed there or scan the QR code. Yes, I love QR codes. They're so much easier, especially for those of us with ADHD. I don't want to have to do more than one step. Point the camera, click the QR code versus trying to remember, click on, copy, paste, all that stuff. So I've been using them a lot more lately. I am going to be working with the folks to secure a date for the session that they will be doing on our study group that's going to specifically cover the Canadian material. And I do have to send an email back to someone because they had asked if the whole test is different. It's not. There's just going to be some minor differences in some of the information based on what Canada's rules are in certain areas, etc. I'd like to say thank you to Rapid SOS, our premier study group sponsor. Thanks to them, I'm able to do this particular study group. There are a lot of hours that go into this, and I really appreciate them being our sponsor to give me the opportunity to be able to do this as much as I have wanted to. And we also still have our scholarships available. And I need to say a huge thank you to Rapid SOS, Responder Services Consulting, our girl Shnar, and LB Comms. Oh, where did my camera go? Did I just disappear? Okay, not sure what happened there. Sorry about that. And LB Communications, my friend Mark Cady, have generously donated the funds to be able to accommodate 7 scholarships for the ENP exam. And if you would like to be a sponsor, you can scan that QR code up in the right-hand corner and just let us know. We have just a little bit more time left for the applications. We have several now. If you are going to still apply for that scholarship, make sure that it is worthy of the information that you're putting in there, because we've had some pretty thoughtful responses, and I just want to make sure that we give everyone a fair opportunity to receive that scholarship. Just saying you want it to advance your career is not going to cut it in one of the answers. So we'll be taking those applications until December 8th, and then the awards will go out on December 22nd. So Merry Christmas if that's your holiday. And you will have about 2 weeks before you need to register for the upcoming exam in February. So these scholarships are for the February exam. There are other scholarships that are available. Texas NINA, Tennessee NINA, and 911 Wonder Woman all have scholarships available for folks that would cover the exam fee. So definitely check them out, and the links are there. The links are always one click away. Once you get the PDF, any link that I have in the presentation is just clickable, and you should be able to get to the site that you want. I also started sharing that we have activated the On Scene First store, where there are some stickers and t-shirts and sweatshirts, and we just launched our challenge coins, so they're there also. And I'm sure, as many of you know, the proceeds that come from the store more or less go right back into supporting and helping 911 in any way I possibly can. So I appreciate your support. To those that have purchased items, I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. It is much appreciated. I also want to share that if you have downloaded and done anything with weeks 2 and 3 PDF out of the Google Drive, I did have to correct 2 slides. There was one word in week 2. I had do, and it should have been don't. And I don't remember the slide that it was on. So unfortunately, you might have to print out the whole thing if you already printed it out. And then on week 3, it looks like Nina had changed one of the links, and it was the link to access the standard for the Annie and Allie, for the Allie discrepancy reporting. So if you had already downloaded those, please just jump in and download them again, or maybe just see where the difference is in week 2. You only have to download that one page, and same with the Allie discrepancy forms. So let's jump into multi-line telephone systems, or MLTSs. I am super passionate about multi-line telephone systems and the shenanigans that they cause. I don't love them in general, but I have put a lot of time into learning lots of nuances, lots of information, because it is really important. These types of phone systems are more prevalent than we actually know of. There are many folks that are moving to multi-line phone systems, and they can create issues for us. So I hope that all of the information I give you, number one, is exactly what they're looking for to help you study for this piece of exam, but also gives you some background information in what you could be and should be doing in your 911 center to prevent any kind of tragedies based on calls not being handled properly. So as far as the multi-line telephone system goes, or MLTS, they are formally known as PBX, which stands for Private Branch Exchange. And if you think about it, remember kind of back in the days when you had the operator that would kind of, it's kind of like that in one facility. You will still see phone 911 calls come in with the class of service listed as PBX, because we do not have a class of service at this time that differentiates between a PBX And in MLTS, it may say VoIP, but VoIP isn't telling you that it is an MLTS. Does that make sense? Hopefully so. So PBX should give you the general understanding that it is an office type phone system where you have a phone service, and then you have a whole bunch of extensions or lines that are coming off of that system. And so a PBX is also an MLTS, but an MLTS in a PBX isn't always VoIP, but it can be VoIP. So you're not going to need to know those nuances, but just know that they are all kind of interchangeable depending on the type of call that is coming in, or the service provider, or who they have service contracted with as far as that company or agency goes. They are known to create location challenges. And I have some more information that I'm going to be giving you guys on more of the location, more challenges when it comes to phone systems, but it's in a different section. They may be a central system that provides service to remote locations that are geographically separated, meaning I have a parent company that is located in one jurisdiction, and then there are children, excuse me, and then there are children or satellite locations that are located in other jurisdictions. And I'm sure folks on the call have been dealing with that for quite some time. And if you recall, when we talked about discrepancy reporting, we talked about the importance of when a 911 call gets transferred to you from somewhere other than the place that the call should have gone to. So Northern 911 in Canada, the Entrado call center in Colorado. There's another call center out there that may transfer calls to you, or another agency. Anytime you have a situation where a parent company is located in one jurisdiction and their satellite locations are in another section, a geographic location, and the calls are not routing to the appropriate place, somebody needs to fix that. And we're going to talk about Carey's law and the magnitude of that piece of the law. The trunk lines may be located on site, in a remote location, or in the cloud. So multi-line phone systems, they go way back in time under the PBX, which everything was probably on location through that generalized network, where today we have the capabilities of having remote locations and in the cloud type locations. There are a couple of different types of MLTS. So first, you have a single building in a single location. This could be an office building. It could be a company that is owned by one company, and they have several floors and several areas, and it's one phone system for one building. Then there is the scenario where you have multiple buildings at a single location. And this could be a college campus, a hospital campus, any type of campus where you have one building, and that may house the main phone system, and then you have satellite buildings on the same property, same jurisdiction, right in that same geographic area. And then there are MLTSs where you have multiple buildings at different locations. And that's why you see that map there that's kind of showing from one place to another. If anybody has a Dollar General, I think it is, in their jurisdiction, I know I've heard from a few folks that that's one of the phone systems where the parent company is located in one jurisdiction, and all the Dollar General stores, whenever they would call 911, would go to the 911 center where the parent location was. So that's kind of interesting, right? So if you're from that agency that got all those calls, let me know if it has been resolved. I would love to know. But I know that was something that they had been trying to work on, and now hopefully Carrie's Law has kind of been able to help them successfully navigate that. So the term enterprise is interchangeable for an MLTS. So sometimes we will hear them referred to as enterprise. So just know that that term is interchangeable. So as far as an enterprise communication system, an ECS, and just so you know, if you're following along in your manual, nowhere in the manual does it identify what the letters ECS stands for. So here it is. Enterprise communication system. And what they want you to know here is that some telephone locations will not have a unique telephone number assigned to them. That means that if you're in, say, a hotel and you are in that room, it may not have a unique number assigned to that telephone. So I can pick up and I can call out, but I might not be able to get calls back in. Now, some hotels allow you to do that, some don't. But nonetheless, when the call originally goes out, it's going to go out on the main phone line of the system. And then some telephone locations will have individual directories assigned. I know in our police department, when we had put in our first VoIP MLTS, we went from not having the capability of being able to direct dial into any of our offices. We now have that capability. So before, you would have to dial the main number and then you would have to dial an extension to get into, say, my office, the chief's office, the detective's office, etc. But now they have that capability where you can use the main directory and put in an extension, or you can direct dial into the system. And so when they have that number that is associated like that, it is called a DID, direct inward dialing, just what it says. Direct inward dialing is a telephone service that allows the phone number to ring directly to a specific phone at a business instead of going through the menu or a queue or needing to dial an extension. So everything that I just said, if it has the phone number attached and you're able to call that separately outside of the main menu, then that is a DID. Okay. Something that these types of phone systems also have is called a PS alley, public switch automatic location information. So just like your alley that you would have out in the 911 landline regular space, the PS alley is a sorry, too much turkey yesterday, I guess. It's a database that is used to automatically identify and relay a caller's location information to emergency dispatchers when someone dials 911 or other emergency number. So that public switch alley information is basically the conduit that says this phone just called 911, so we need to send it through this particular routing. It recognizes the numbers and then it sends it through the system, and it is where they will get the location information from that phone system. And so, as I have talked about ad nauseum in many of my trainings, is that when we have a situation like one that I'm going to explain to you, where the call goes to the parent company, then somebody did not provision that location information appropriately in this public switch alley location. So it's a matter of just changing that information. So when I describe getting that location information, some folks might get a little confused between PS Alley and an MSAG, the Master Street Address Guide. Because if you remember when we had gone over some of that stuff in the beginning, by definition, if you're kind of logically thinking through the process, one might say, isn't the PS Alley similar to the Master Street Address Guide? And it sounds similar, but it's not. So I am going to read these for you and then just recap at the bottom. So and that's for the folks that are out there listening versus watching and seeing the screen. So the PS Alley is the database that contains information about the phone numbers and their associated locations. That means the locations inside the facility from which they are calling from. When you dial an emergency number like 911, the PS Alley database is queried to retrieve the address that's linked to that phone number. It helps emergency services identify where the call is coming from. It's basically attaching the address right to the phone number, where with the MSAG, it does it a little bit differently. The MSAG, the Master Street Address Guide, is also a database. It cross-references street addresses within a standardized format. It ensures that the addresses associated with the phone number in the PS Alley database is accurate and correctly linked to the emergency zone or area to which it belongs. So it's a cross validation to make sure, because when we look at the MSAG, it's not just validating it's validating the address, the street, the zone, the range, making sure that the call is going to the right place. So there's a lot of different things that it's validating. So MSAG validation ensures that emergency responders are directed to the right location based on the address that's linked to the caller's phone number. So if you remember, the way that traditional systems work is when I place my 911 call from a wireline phone, my phone number is the first thing to get to that 911 center. The phone number is then parsed out. It's taken out of its little package. It's repackaged and it's sent back to be validated and request more information based on the location of the phone number. And that's when it hits the MSAG. It's cross-referencing to get that valid information. So PS Alley contains phone number and location data, while MSAG ensures the accuracy and validation of the street addresses associated with the phone number within the emergency system. So an example would be if I have an MSAG entry that I have to update, say New Bedford Road in our town, right now the range is from 2 to 100. But they've started building houses further down the road, and now we need to extend that range. We're going to extend the range, and then that way any phone number that is put into the system based on one of those new addresses will be able to cross-validate that information and make sure that it is accurate. So with all that said, any number used for emergency service routing must be entered into the public switch automatic location information database and then associate it with the proper MSAG validated street address of the actual location where that is. So we have a special legislation area where this could be listed under our legislation section, but we're pulling it out, and I'm pulling it out and I'm putting it here because it makes sense for it to go here because it is based on multi-line telephone system stuff. And and that is Carey's Law and Ray Baum's Act. So if I was to ask you, and if you've taken any of my classes, you know that I've shown you this particular alley screen before. This is our old Vesta system. Your alley screen may look a little bit different, but I specifically took a picture of this because it makes a very valid point for a couple of reasons. Number one, this caller, without any face value, it looks like they're calling from Braintree. It looks like they're at 30 Braintree Hill Park, the ING North American Insurance Company, and this is the phone number that they are calling from. So at face value, it looks like we have all of the information here. That's great. It is listing that it is a PBX. However, what we now know is the lie detector determined that's a lie. This caller was actually located in my jurisdiction on Bradford Lane at an address in our town in Rochester, which is about an hour away from Braintree. This call went to Northern 911 in Canada because, as I mentioned, with default routing calls, the call didn't know where to go. This is a perfect example to use, and I have used it before, but I'm going to use it again for this part of the training. So when the call came in, or when the call was placed, the person that was using the VoIP phone system, it was a VoIP MLTS, and she was considered a satellite location here in our town. When she picked up the phone to dial a 9 to get an outside line, which we know that is no longer, we shouldn't have to do that. But when she dialed the 9 to get an outside line, she pressed the 9, she dialed a 1 because it was going to be a long distance call, but then forgot the phone number. So when she looked back at the paper she was looking at, she went to dial the number, she dialed a 1 for a second time. So it inadvertently dialed 911. So when the system looked at the particular situation and was like, whoa, wait a minute, I have to use the PS alley to route this call based on this phone number. This call is going to go, oh, wait a minute. Is it going to go to Braintree, or is it going to go to Rochester? Because geographically, the phone's located in Rochester based on all of the things in the soft phone. But the alley is saying that it belongs in Braintree. And so the system does not hesitate. If it doesn't know where to send that call, it's going to default route to an emergency call relay center. Majority of the time, it will be Northern 911, but there are times that it will be the Colorado, the Entrado call center in Colorado. And I will do a shameless plug for them every time. Let's not criticize what they do. They are actually handing us our misfit 911 calls that have default routed to them. So when they call, we should say thank you, not take it to social media and bash them, because they are doing the same job that we are doing, except sometimes their job is a little more challenging because they don't have any information. So the majority of their job is playing defective detective and trying to find out where the best place is to send these calls to. So shout out and kudos to those folks. But this is just one of the components as we peel back the layers of Carey's Law and a piece of Ray Baum's Act. So where I got fully involved in this is way back in 2015, which feels like a lifetime ago. We took a call for a fire at the zero waste facility in our jurisdiction in Rochester, Massachusetts. When the call came in, it was routed from the facility to New Bedford. New Bedford is about 20 minutes away from us. It's a different jurisdiction, different 911 system. But because the parent company was located in New Bedford, the call went there first. The phone was not provisioned correctly. When I reached out to, well, I had my husband who is on the fire department. Once the fire was knocked down, I asked him to find the person that placed the 911 call and asked them to call me on the business line. When they called me, I confirmed that she called from the facility, from a hardline phone, and I explained where the call went and that we needed to get that situation resolved. The first thing we did, fill out a discrepancy report, which goes to the state of Massachusetts, and then they start going through the process. But I too can start going through the process and I can contact the main facility in New Bedford, speak to a manager and say, hey, we took a call from your facility today in Rochester, but the call went to New Bedford. Could you get with your phone provider and resolve that situation? It could just be they bring it up on the computer and type in the address. That's it. That's how easy it is in most cases. I explained how tragic it could be if something was to go wrong again and that they need to contact 911 and maybe the person can't identify their location. Well, that's not what happened a few months later, but a man did fall and get impaled by rebar. He had to be med flighted, and the call went to New Bedford. Now, granted, there wasn't a significant delay. We got there as quickly as we could based on the information. But just for a moment, imagine if that person was choking, or they were having an altered mental status, or they called 911 and they just couldn't speak. That call would go to New Bedford, and the responders would get sent to New Bedford, and then they would say, we got a 911 call from there. Is everything okay? And nobody in New Bedford would know what was going on at the facility in Rochester. So what I realized is that these folks were not doing what they should be doing, and I wanted to know if there was any recourse. So that prompted me to search MLTS laws, et cetera. And that's where I started to learn about, teach about Carrie's Law. And I had the honor of meeting Carrie Hunt's dad, Hank Hunt, after presenting about this particular topic at the National NENA conference back in 2016. I had no idea who her dad was, or the magnitude of what that relationship was going to spark. But since then, working with them, working with Mark Fletcher, as many of you may know, is very played a very vital role in getting Carrie's Law passed. But a lot of times folks don't understand what their role in the 911 center is when it comes to Carrie's Law. So for those of you that don't know who Carrie is or what happened on December 1st, 2013, she was in a hotel room with her estranged husband. They were having a conversation. He wanted to give it one more try, and she was adamant about leaving. This was there was a history of domestic violence there, and she made the choice to leave. While in the bathroom, the three children, including Brianna, her 9-year-old daughter, was in the other part of the room watching television. And in the bathroom, her estranged husband proceeded to stab her almost 40 times. As she was being stabbed, she called out to her daughter to call 911, and she did. She did exactly what she was supposed to do, but unfortunately, the phone calls never went through to 911. We learned later that she needed to dial a 9, and nobody tells children that they needed to dial a 9 to get an outside line when placing a 911 call. What ultimately also happened was, when that 911 call was attempting to be placed, when they looked through the footage of the desk clerk, he was on a computer. He was just killing time shopping on some website. But he had no idea that there was anything going on down the hallway, at the end of the hallway on the first floor. And so that needed to be changed also. So Hank and his family took to change.org, and they started a petition to get a version of Carrie's Law passed, basically saying that you shouldn't have to dial a 9 on any type of PBX or multi-line phone system to get access to 911. Most folks don't, in the middle of an emergency, realize that if they pick up a phone, that they have to dial that extension to get out. So that was where the change had started after a lot of work in a very short period of time, which it's beyond mind-blowing how quickly these folks were educated and truly understand the magnitude of getting Carrie's Law passed. But it happened pretty quickly. So what are the components that you as a 911 telecommunicator, number one, you should be you should be made aware of all of the three main components of Carey's Law, but there's really only one, I say one and a half, that you have any control over. So the first one is they have to be able to have when you pick up a phone, you need to have direct access to 911, meaning I should not have to pick up a phone and dial a 9 or an 8 or a 7. It says 9, but in reality, it's no prefix. I shouldn't have to dial any number to engage that phone to be able to dial 911 out, period. The second component, and this accommodates the front desk clerk who was not privy to what was going on at that time. He had no idea that anyone was calling 911. Is the second component is there needs to be on-site notification to a staff member that somebody called 911 from an extension in that facility. And they need to know where that location is. The kicker is the dates in which it becomes Carey's Law went into effect. So when I say there's like one and a half things that a telecommunicator could be responsible for, the half is when you know that a brand new facility, and I would say if you don't know what the dates are, if you're not going to remember what the dates are, just go by the first time you heard this information. If you know that any facility, it's actually going to be any facility built after 2020, I believe. Let me check that. It's on the next slide. There's a lot of dates that are in some of these, but if you know of a building that's been built in the last year at minimum, or anything after the sound of my voice, if you get a 911 call from that facility, and when you call back, if you do not get a room number or a location of the 911 call from someone at that facility, then they are not adhering to Carey's Law. So any new or significantly upgraded, meaning 50% or more phone system, needs to have on-site notification. So I say half because I'm that type of person that if I went back to work tomorrow and I took a call from a hotel room and I called back and they could not tell me, and I knew that hotel was only built in the last year, oh, I'd be all over it. Not everybody's like me. There are folks that are on this call or that will hear me that are just like me. So I just want to let you know that yes, there's something you can kind of go towards them with if it's not showing on-site notification, but you just have to know the law. You have to know what the dates are and when the building was built, when the phone system went in, et cetera. And a lot of folks are not going to engage that deeply. And then here's the component that is most prevalent to 911 telecommunicators, and that's direct routing of the 911 call. There cannot be an intentional interception, meaning I can't pay a company to receive my 911 calls and then you be the one that transfers them. I know that really sounds barbaric and why would anybody do that? I do know that there were a couple of facilities that were having trouble with accidental 911 calls from their facility into 911, and it had to do with the 9. And so they were dialing 9 and then 1 and then 1 again. And so instead of that call being routed to 911, they were actually routing, anytime somebody would dial 911 from that particular facility, it would go to the phone service provider and they would answer. And then they would say, I need 911. And then the phone service provider would transfer that call to 911 once they validated it was an emergency. I know, beyond crazy, right? But it's happened on more than one occasion. So the component of Carey's Law for our 911 folks is no interception, and that's intentional and unintentional. So we can't predict when a call is going to be misrouted or intercepted by Northern 911 or the Intrado call center, or go to another agency because the parent facility is in another jurisdiction. There's no way for us to anticipate that. But when it happens, that is where you as the telecommunicator need to get involved. That is when you need to fill out the discrepancy report, and somebody needs to be following up. That is the biggest component for Carrie's Law that is going to affect us in 911, and that you can make a difference. This is not the place for me to go into the number of calls that have been routed to one of the emergency call relay centers that delayed response and ultimately resulted in a loss of life. But just know it has happened. And that's why I'm so adamant about making sure we are following the rules when it comes to these particular things. And I do know that there are some questions on this on the exam. So it was February 16th, 2018, which was the 50th anniversary of the first 911 call in Haleyville, Alabama. Now, you will not be quizzed on that. It does mention it in there. But if for whatever reason, if you know that the first 911 call was in 1968 in Haleyville, Alabama, and the question has to do with the date, when was it signed, just add the 50 to it, and you'll be able to come up with the day that it was signed by President Trump. The beautiful young lady to the right of the president, that with glasses, that's Brianna. She was the one that made the 911 call. All the way over to the left, unfortunately, I mean, sorry, my right, the president's left. Over here, cut off, that's Mark Fletcher. He super paramount in the passing of Carrie's Law. And the lovely couple to his right, DJ and Hank Hunt, are Carrie's parents, and they also played a very significant role in getting this passed. So definitely know your components of Carrie's Law. The compliance date, so even though it was signed by President Trump in 2018, by the time it got to where it needed to go, the compliance date is actually February 16th of 2020. That's the day that it goes into effect. However, in your manual, it identifies the date of February 17th, 2020 for the actual upgrade of the system. So if it came down to the 16th versus the 17th, and somebody put in a new system on the 16th, even though the compliance date is the 16th, it isn't until the 17th that it goes into effect. Is that going to be relevant? I don't know. It could be on there, but I just wanted to explain that because those two dates are listed as being the significant dates. But while the compliance date is 2 years after the signing of the law, it is the 17th for any of the actual upgrades, which again means any new or 50% or higher upgrade that has been made to the phone system. 3 weeks later, President Trump then signed, I don't know why I have the word sign there twice, but I'll fix that. President Trump signed Ray Baum's Act of 2018. And so what is Ray Baum's Act? It's interesting because Ray Baum was a member of Congress who was very involved in a lot of things 911. And his name is the acronym that stands for Repack Airwaves, Yielding Better Access for Users of Modem Services. Will you be asked what the acronym stands for? I don't know. But the Ray Baum's Act does have something to do with spectrum, like radio spectrums, funding, etc. But the piece that we need to be concerned with has to do with the importance of making dispatchable location information from all 911 calls available to PSAP. So it comes down to dispatchable location. Dispatchable location means location delivered to the PSAP with the 911 call that consists of a validated street address of the calling party, plus any additional information such as the suite, the apartment, or similar information. In other words, if I have an apartment complex, Ray Baum's Act says that there needs to be a dispatchable location, and it's not just 123 Main Street. It should be 123 Main Street, apartment 5, floor 4, whatever that additional information is. We are not seeing this yet. Unfortunately, I don't know what the I don't want to say ramifications, but I guess that's the word that I would say is I'm not sure what the ramifications are, um, if somebody doesn't have that dispatchable location, and it's unclear on when that actually goes into effect, when that information has to be there, and there hasn't been enough information on it. So when we look at the dispatchable location definition, according to the FCC, it is the street address of the calling party and additional information. And then additional information, again, is defined as the room number, floor number, or similar information necessary to adequately identify the calling party's location. The problem with this, which is something that we would have seen if any other technology had gone out, where folks have to be responsible for maintaining their records. In other words, today this is a training room, so the location is identified as the training room. However, we do some remodeling and we move the training room over to a different place, and now this is the lunchroom. So it's not foolproof, right? But Ray Baum's Act has to do with, for us, it has to do with dispatchable location. So the important dates for Ray Baum's Act, January 6th. So whatever you feel about that date, I know it's a date that sticks in people's minds for whatever reason, but just know that January 6th, 2021 was the important date for it to be implemented for wireline, and then 1 year later for wireless devices. And again, we're not seeing this. I haven't seen it be enacted, and not really sure how people can be held accountable on this one. On Kerry's law, yeah, we can hold them accountable if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but we can't be with Ray Baum's Act yet. So keep an eye out for that. Just a few other items that were mentioned is before Kerry's law, less than 50% of the state had MLTS legislation. On August 1st, the FCC unanimously voted to consolidate Kerry's law and recommendations that dispatchable, where did it go? Oh, that dispatchable locations be provided by all types of MLTS, including VoIP and cloud-based systems. So those are just a few other items that are mentioned. This link is clickable. These next two slides are places where you can get more information and understanding about Kerry's law and Ray Baum's Act. So this document is here, as well as this 911.gov document as well. So I know if folks like to kind of read up on things, there you go. That's additional resources there. And if you are looking to create a model 911 legislation for your jurisdiction, you can check out this website. It is also listed in the manual. I know Massachusetts has, even before Kerry's law, we had a pretty extensive MLTS law. And again, with most things, it's how do you police it? How do you get folks held accountable? I tip my hat to the Massachusetts State 911 Department. They have implemented a pretty decent follow-up program, meaning if they receive a discrepancy, so I would go back and use the zero waste facility in my jurisdiction. If that was to happen today, I would fill out the discrepancy report. It would go to the state 911 department. State 911 department would follow up, let them know that they need to get this situation resolved, and then they would keep track of it. And the best part about it, it is on their public website. So those you can access. So if you Googled Massachusetts MLTS violations or something like that, you would come up with a list of folks that have been told that they need to resolve the issue of their calls going somewhere else intentionally. At first, it's probably unintentionally, but if you've been told and it should be resolved, now you are choosing to intentionally send those calls somewhere else, which is in violation of the third component of Carey's law. So they're putting them on the blast, and I think that's cool. As far as MLTS using the main phone number, where the MLTS uses the main phone number as an ANI when contacting emergency services. The main phone number of the MLTS is provisioned in the database management system for the alley, just like any other business or residential line. That means that when that phone system's set up, that phone number should be entered into their database within a location attached to it. And this is the piece where it gets missed a lot. When the ANI is sent and the alley query is made, remember, when a 911 call gets placed, it is the ANI, the phone number that arrives at the PSAT first. That phone number is parsed out, repackaged, sent back out to the alley database, and it asks for the location. Once the location is revealed, it is cross-validated by the MSAG, and then that location is returned back to the 911 center. So the phone number is doing the same exact thing. The only problem is if somebody misses the step or the piece to identify that it's a different location, then that's where we have our discrepancies. And this is where we have some of the issues. So just said that. Not sure why that was half a slide because the full slide is right here. So under MLTS, there is also something identified as the emergency response location. The emergency response location, the ERL, the records are uploaded to the database management system, DBMS. And I will tell you, you will probably see that abbreviation on your exam. I just feel it's come up numerous times. And I remember it being there. We will go over it when we talk specifically about databases. But the ERL, the emergency response location, is uploaded to the database management system, DBMS, as an emergency location information number, which is the ELIN, and it can be associated with each ERL. The ELIN, the emergency location information number, is then added to the PSALI database and is the ANI for the 911 call. So it is taking the phone number in that system and moving it over to the particular database. Host MLTS with remote MLTS. Usually this is used in any type of multi-regional corporations. Those, like I said, Dollar General. And they're using the PSALI, the processor at the main MLTS sends the direct inward dialed number and the caller's location to the DBMS. And again, as long as everything is provisioned correctly, we're fine. As soon as it's not, we're not fine. And then they also mentioned over the top data delivery. So 80% of calls are coming from cellular devices today. Most of them are from smartphones. We are having some other types of things that are calling 911, like telematics, etc. And with that, there needed to be, as we branch out and start getting 911 calls from different places or different types of services, there is a need for an additional data repository, an ADR. And prior to Rapid SOS building, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was they actually built the first ADR, additional data repository, but Nina had already built the architecture for it, meaning this is how we think that this over-the-top data delivery should be sent into the 911 space. MLTS data can also be sent to an ADR to assist with additional location information. So if you use the Rapid SOS portal, and again, this is not a shameless plug for Rapid SOS, it's just they have a lot of capabilities that a lot of folks are not using that portal before, and it just blows my mind, because they are what is considered an additional data repository. So first, it's a location information server, a list, which you're going to see soon too, and an ADR, additional data repository. So if you work with someone like 911 Inform or any type of company that is able to put maps into or attached to a phone number. So if my elementary school say was call 911, there is additional data that can be sent in over the top for that particular 911 center. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I want to share a webinar with you that will give you a little bit more insight into the Carey's Law, the Ray Balms Act, what you should know and understand. But if you were to go to my website, onscenefirst.com/training/webinars, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and over here on the left-hand side, there is a webinar that you should be still able to access. If you're having a problem, just contact me through the website. You can do it right up there in the top, or shoot me an email. But the title of it is Where Are They Calling From? That's not right. Now what? And we talk about discrepancy reporting in there. We talk about Carey's Law. So it is a good refresher before you take the exam, because we talk about discrepancy reporting, which could be on the exam. We talk about Carey's Law and Ray Balms Act. And we also talk about non-service initialized devices, which we're going to talk about next week when we do the wireless stuff. But yeah, that information is there. So by all means, check it out, and it is there for you for free. And if anyone has a problem, let me know. I also want to just share this website with you for the Carey Hunt Foundation. They do a lot for folks with domestic violence, and Hank is often a keynote speaker, Carey's dad, and not every organization has the ability to fund them to go and share Carey's story. And so they have started Carey's Hugs, which is a company where they sell blankets. That little logo there was created by one of Carey's daughters. It's a mom and her 3 children, and they always talk about how amazing Carey's Hugs were. So if you wanted to check out Carey's Hugs, the website's there and the QR code's there, but I just wanted to share that for them. And with that, I will say thank you. Go enjoy your rest of your holiday weekend. I appreciate the folks that did join today. I know that a lot of folks were off, so thank you for coming. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can just scan that QR code right there. It'll get a message to me quick, or email address is there. And I would appreciate it if you liked and followed my social media so I can get great sponsors to help our 911 family when the need arises. And until next time, heroes, stay safe, stay strong, stay here. We need you.